Hello, John Bloodworth, Gentleman Crafter here with more in my Fun with Foundation paper piecing series. This one is number 25 and it's called Pinwheel in a Square. Kind of self-evident really. I've already cut my pieces according to the measurements on the pattern that you can download from my website, gentlemancrafter.com. And this block is made up of two sections, an A section and a B section. I'll show you those in a second. I'm just getting my pins ready. So here they are, A and B. A will sit on the top and B will sit on the bottom. I'll start with section A, and as always we're working on the back of that particular pattern, and I'm starting with piece A1. I've marked on the pattern which section locations each colour goes in, so make sure you follow that and use the red dotted line to help you align the first piece, which needs to be right side facing up, so that's the pattern side facing up, and then section 2 will go on top of that, right side facing down. If you're ever unsure which way to position it, put it on the pattern as if it's going to be right side facing up, and then you should be able to figure out which side needs to fold over and turn your piece over that way. Pin it in place, and then we're going to stitch it between sections 1 and 2. Make sure you stitch on the dashed line, the black dashed line, and also make sure you use a short stitch spacing, so on my machine it's 1.6. Start and finish at the start and finish of the line, try not to go over that, and of course tack stitch or reverse stitch at the start and end to secure that seam in place. Once stitched, unpin it. We're folding back, and you can finger press as you work, but I'm choosing to use the iron to press firmly as I work. This helps secure the stitches in place and also the pieces as you work, making it easier to line things up and get the next section on the go. Now the next part is A3, which needs to be the third colour. This one should be easier to line up because you've got the long raw edge of the two pieces you've just stitched, plus the corner points of the two pieces you've just stitched to help you line that up. Pin that in place, and then we're going to sew along the line that separates A3 from A1 and 2. Same as before, start and stop on the dashed line, work on it, not either side of it, as that can make a big difference in making sure things get lined up. Trim your threads as you work just to keep neat and tidy. Stops them getting accidentally locked into other seams that you sew later on. Unpin it, fold back and press. The edges of this piece should come into contact with the solid edge of the block. If they come just inside but beyond the dashed lines of the rest of the pattern, that's fine, as you won't see it, they'll be locked into the seam. Next up, A4. Now I'm just going to use the piece of card to fold back along the line that separates A4, and use my add a quarter ruler and rotary blade just to trim any excess off. And you can see there is actually quite a bit here, and this makes a huge difference when you're lining up the next piece. It needs to be 1/4 inch. So this one's going to go like that, which means I need to fold it back like that. So the point should be horizontal with the other point. Pin it in place. And stitch. If you're just joining this series, we're on number 25 now. There are 24 others available in the playlist on my YouTube channel. And I do have a Facebook group where people are sharing things that they are making, whether that's a single block or projects that they have completed using multiples of the same block or different blocks. So if you'd like to, please do come and join us. You can find us on Facebook, or there'll be a link in the description below the video on YouTube, and of course on the corresponding blog post on my website, gentlemancrafter.com. Next up, we're folding back and trimming back for section 5. And that there, where those bits are coming up, is the reason that we don't go beyond the lines, because they kind of affect how we work later on. Now it's just the bunny ears to trim here, as the section was neatly placed. So section 5 will be our darker colour. And we have that raw edge that we've just trimmed to line up to, together with all of the other lines available to us. I'm using magic pins as they help keep the fabric flat. Flat-headed pins would also work very well for this. And then we unpin, fold back, excuse me, and press. Now I did a bit of a mistake here. When I put the iron down, I accidentally hit the stop button on my mouse button that was controlling the camera, so I only had this particular view to go to until I got back to this one. Whoopsie. Anyway, folding back a 6. And seeing if I need to trim anything. There's a little bit, there's the bunny ear and a tiny little bit there. Even just tidying those up really helps for positioning the next piece. And that's another of our bordering colours. And this will line up with the bottom and the raw edge that we've just trimmed. Again, just working down that solid dashed line. Not solid dashed line. How can you have a solid dashed line? A dash line. Tack stitch at the start and finish. And trim your threads. Fold it back and it should come into contact or go beyond the solid border. If it doesn't, but if it's within that seam allowance, beyond the dashed lines, it's fine. It'll get hidden in the seam anyway. Now that we've completed the first section, we can trim it back to the solid outlines. To give us our finished section. And there we have our first. You would repeat that for section B, and then we come to the point where we'll join those together. So remember, A is on top, B is on the bottom. So we'll turn section A over and position it up on top of section B, making sure that everything is aligned. Apologies, it's a little out of focus, but I'm just trying to make sure I can see what I'm doing. And then we'd pin this in place and we'll stitch along the bottom edge of section A. So obviously you can see how all the text is orientated. So we're looking at the bottom edge. And if you need to increase the stitch spacing for this, it's probably a good idea, just because there's quite a bit of bulk going on where those seams meet. Tack stitch and reverse stitch at the, or reverse stitch at the start and end again, just to lock those things in place, and stitch all the way along. Trim your threads, unpin, and then what we're going to do is open that out and work with our finger pressing tool or some kind of bone folder or blunt edge just to separate out the seam and press it open. And then I'll lock that in place with a good press of the iron. Pressing with the iron actually secures the threads in place and helps lock the fabric into the form that you've shaped it, if that makes sense. And obviously just watch your fingers. And it's probably a good idea as well to press it from the front too. And there we go, there's our pinwheel in a square block. I hope you've enjoyed the video and will give it a go yourself. In the meantime, please remember to give the video a thumbs up and subscribe for future content. Thanks for watching.